Hi, this is Beth Azor, and this is my podcast, I Own a Shopping Center, Now What? So I was just at the ICSC in Orlando, and I met quite a few people that have been enjoying this podcast. So I was very excited about that. And I met a lot of people that didn't even know about the podcast. So please share the podcast and on any social media channel you're on, and mention that you are getting some tidbits from it if you are. But one of the gentlemen that stopped by was interested in talking to me about me coming to work with his leasing team. And as much as I am happy to do that, it's not cheap. And what I recommend always to everyone is the following. I had published, if that's the right word, a podcast a few years ago that coincided with my book, The Retail Leasing Playbook. And why I did that is I wanted to make sure that the information got to the leasing agents that maybe for whatever reason couldn't afford the $49 book. And it's a podcast that I go chapter by chapter. There are 69 chapters in the book, and the podcast covers approximately 2 chapters per podcast. It's a very short podcast, just like this one. And I basically say, today we're going to talk about chapters 1 and 2. And here are the cliff notes about, what you should have gotten out of your chapter. And what I suggested that this man do is he has a leasing team of, I think, 6 people. He has a leasing director. And I said, take the podcast. And I asked if they had a weekly meeting, and he said that they do every Monday. I think their meeting was at lunchtime every Monday. I said, assign homework to where they listen to the podcast, or maybe 2 episodes where they would go over 4 chapters, and take the next 10 weeks between now and year end. And every Monday you discuss, the leasing director goes around the room and asks everyone what they got out of those 2 podcasts for the week. So basically going through my book, The Retail Leasing Playbook, which is, what I'm going to do if you hire me to come speak to your group or do a workshop. What's missing obviously is the canvassing piece, but that's okay. But do that between now and year end, and I believe you would see a huge bump up in activity. And I would, if you have leasing teams, even if you only have 1 or 2, this would be a great exercise. And he was aware of this podcast, but he was not aware of that one. It's called the Retail Leasing Playbook Podcast. So instead of paying me thousands of dollars to come work with your team, where I would basically be teaching the same things you can get for free, why don't you try that? And you could also suggest that if you all have third-party brokers, again, maybe they wouldn't take kindly to you telling them that they need some coaching or training. But I do think that podcast has a lot of good gems in it, like I hope you find that this one does. And it's free. It just takes time to spend time listening and then putting some of the practices in action. So he loved the idea. He still says he's going to call me so I can come canvassing with his team, which I'm happy to do. But at least, this would make a big dent, and he can start seeing action faster if they put this into implementation now, at least in the next 30 days. So think about doing that, utilizing that podcast, which goes by chapter of my book. And some of you I know have the book. I actually signed a couple copies at the conference that people brought for me to sign, which was very nice. But so between the podcast and the book, you don't need me to come in person. You have me in your ear, and you have my words. So use that. And obviously I hope that would help with your occupancy and with your rental rates to improve the values of your properties. I hope this helps. Please share this podcast and that one if you find it valuable, and I'll speak to you next week. Hey, listeners of I Own a Shopping Center, Now What? We have done some research, and we have found out that 92% of the listeners are men in the ages of 50 to 70. So what I wanted to do is shout out to all of you. Thank you for listening. But I wanted to shout out to all of you. If you have a wife or a sister or a daughter, I have a conference every year in March called the Women's Real Estate Investment Summit. There are 250 women that attend, and probably 75% of them are investors in all kinds of different asset classes. We've had women that are fix and flippers, women that have invested in storage, hospitality, student housing, of course, retail, and you name it, senior living, multiple different asset classes, car wash funds. And the women in the room, what I do is I interview women that are investors, and then those women go into breakout rooms and do like a deep dive on how they underwrite their deals, multifamily, etc. And a lot of the women in the room have started investing with each other, which is great, which is helping my goal and mission of getting more women to invest in commercial real estate. But if you have a wife, a daughter, a sister, a mother, that maybe you want them to learn a little bit more about the industry, or maybe they're running your properties with you, have them come. It's March 4th through the 6th. We opened registration last week. We've already sold over 50% of the tickets. I highly predict that we will be sold out by year end. Maybe this would be a great holiday present for the woman in your life. So think about it. You can find out all of the information on bethazor.com. Just scroll down to the summit and you can read all about it there. It is life-changing for the women who attend. At least that's what all the testimonials tell me. And this will be our 6th year. So we've really honed it in and figured it out. So would love to see the ladies in your lives come and meet me and talk about real estate investing. Ciao.